Princess Lyra had seen death before, but never like this. The capital city of Valoria burned beneath a sky that had turned the color of blood. 3 suns hung in the atmosphere, casting shadows that moved in wrong directions, and the air tasted of metal and ash. She stood on the highest balcony of the royal palace, watching her world collapse around her, while her twin dragons circled overhead, crying out in anguish that echoed through her bones. Zara and Nova had been with her since birth. Connected to her through the ancient bond that tied Valari royalty to their dragon companions. For 200 years they had flown together, hunted together, and protected their people together. Now they flew through smoke and fire, dodging weapons that turned the sky itself into a weapon. The Kreth had arrived 3 days ago. Their ships appeared without warning, dropping out of hyperspace like black stones falling into a pond. At first, the Valari thought they could fight back. Their magic was old and powerful. Their dragons breathed fire that could melt steel. Their warriors had trained for centuries in combat that blended physical skill with mystical arts. It was not enough. The Kreth shields absorbed magic like water into sand. Their weapons fired beams that cut through dragon scales and Valari armor without slowing down. They did not negotiate, did not offer terms. They simply began destroying everything. Lyra watched another district explode in the distance. Flames climbed buildings that had stood for 10,000 years. Libraries full of ancient knowledge crumbled into dust. The screams of her people reached her even at this height, and she felt each death like a knife to her heart. Her father, the king, had died in the first attack, leading the defense from the front as tradition demanded. A Kreth beam weapon had vaporized him and 300 royal guards in an instant. Her mother had lasted until yesterday before a bombing run destroyed the medical center where she was healing wounded civilians. Lyra was now the last of the royal bloodline, the last hope for her people, and she had no idea how to save them. She had sent messages to every allied species in their sector of space. The Thorians, who shared 3 systems with Valoria, refused to answer. The Sindari sent a message saying they were closing their borders. The Zephyr Empire, which had sworn eternal friendship to the Valari a century ago, transmitted a formal apology and wished her luck. Everyone was afraid. The Kreth were known across 40 systems as an unstoppable force. They did not conquer worlds, they purged them, clearing away existing life to make room for their own colonies. They had destroyed 15 civilizations in the past 50 years, and no one had found a way to stop them. Lyra felt Zara banking hard above her and looked up to see 3 Kreth fighters streaking toward the palace. They were triangular ships with no visible cockpits, moving in perfect formation. Their weapons began charging with a sound like grinding metal. She raised her hands and spoke words in the old tongue. Power flooded through her veins, burning like ice and fire mixed together. Lightning crackled from her fingertips, arcing across the sky toward the fighters. The bolts hit their shields and dispersed harmlessly. The fighters fired back. Lyra threw herself flat as energy beams tore through the balcony where she had been standing. Stone exploded into fragments and the entire tower shook. Zara dove from above, breathing silver fire that washed over one fighter. The dragon flame should have melted it into slag. Instead, the shields flickered and held. Nova joined her sister, attacking from a different angle. Her fire was hotter, burning with a blue tint that marked her as the more aggressive twin, but the result was the same. The fighters' shields absorbed the attack and they began targeting the dragons. Lyra scrambled to her feet, already channeling another spell. She could feel her power reserves dropping. Each major working took something from her, and she had been fighting for 3 days without rest, but she could not stop. If she stopped, her dragons would die. If her dragons died, she would die. And if she died, there would be no one left to lead the survivors. She unleashed a barrage of ice spears, each one harder than diamond and moving faster than arrows. They struck 2 fighters, and this time one shield flickered and failed. The ice punched through the hull and the fighters spun out of control, crashing into a building below. But the other 2 kept coming. Zara roared and dove directly at one fighter. Her massive body slammed into it with the force of a meteor. Dragon and ship tumbled through the air, locked together. Zara bit down on the hull, her teeth grinding through metal, finally finding something her fire could not burn. The fighter exploded. The blast threw Zara backward and Lyra screamed, feeling the pain through their bond. Burns covered the dragon's left side and one wing hung at an odd angle. Nova caught her sister before she could fall, and together they retreated toward the palace. The last fighter pursued. Lyra was preparing another spell when something strange happened. A new ship appeared in the sky, moving faster than anything she had ever seen. It was dark and sleek with lines that looked wrong somehow, like it had been designed by someone who understood physics differently than everyone else. The new ship fired once. The Kreth fighter exploded into fragments so small they looked like glitter falling through the air. Lyra stared as the unknown vessel circled the palace, moving in patterns that should have been impossible. Its engines made a sound like thunder, but sharper, more controlled. It was not large, maybe a quarter, the size of a Kreth fighter, but it moved with a precision that made her breath catch. Then it landed in the palace courtyard. The boarding ramp extended, and a figure emerged, walking down with casual confidence that seemed completely wrong for a war zone. She was short by Valari standards, barely reaching Lyra's shoulder, with dark skin and hair pulled back tightly. She wore a flight suit that had seen heavy use, covered in patches and symbols. Lyra could not read. The woman looked around the burning city, nodded once, and then looked up at Lyra on her damaged balcony. "Captain Maya Torres," she called out, her voice carrying clearly despite the chaos. Her accent was strange, clipping some words and drawing out others. "You sent a distress call. Someone should have mentioned you have dragons." "That is pretty cool." Lyra stared at her, unable to process what was happening. "Who are you?" "What are you?" "Human," Maya said. "Like that explained everything. I got your message about needing help with some uninvited guests." She gestured at the burning city. "This is worse than I expected." Zara and Nova landed on either side of the courtyard, their massive bodies surrounding this tiny stranger. Both dragons lowered their heads, sniffing at her, growling low in their throats. They were hurt and angry, and this creature smelled wrong. Maya looked at them without flinching. She even smiled. "Nice dragons," she said. "Can they do any tricks?" Lyra felt something crack inside her chest. This was insane. She had called for help, yes, but she had sent messages to everyone, to anyone, hoping someone would respond. She had not expected this, had not expected a single ship. A single person. "You are human," she said, the word feeling strange in her mouth. Maya nodded. "The Thorians mentioned your people needed assistance. They said it was not their problem, but some of us disagreed." She touched something on her wrist and spoke in a language Lyra had never heard. It was harsh and quick, filled with sounds that seemed more like weapons, firing than words. More voices responded from her wrist, equally harsh, equally quick. Maya looked back up at Lyra. "I brought friends. We are going to help you." Lyra wanted to laugh or cry, or maybe both. "The Kreth have an armada in orbit. 100 warships, each one capable of destroying a city." "You brought what, one ship?" Maya's smile widened. "Oh, I brought more than one ship. Princess. A lot more." She pointed at the sky, where Lyra could see the Kreth vessels beginning their descent, preparing for another bombing run. "You might want to get somewhere safe. This is about to get loud." Then the sky tore open. Ships began appearing in the atmosphere around Valoria. Not one or two, but dozens. Hundreds. They dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, moving, with coordination that seemed impossible. Each one bore the same symbol on its hull that Maya wore on her shoulder. Human warships. The Kreth armada turned to face this new threat, and space itself seemed to catch fire. The battle began with silence. For 3 seconds after the human fleet appeared, nothing happened. The Kreth armada hung in orbit like black daggers pointed at Valoria's heart. The human ships formed a wall between them and the planet. Their formations looked chaotic at first glance, but Lyra realized they were moving in patterns that kept shifting, never staying in one configuration long enough to predict. Then the Kreth opened fire. 1,000 beams of energy lanced across space, each one powerful, enough to crack a moon in half. They converged on the human fleet in a display of firepower that should have ended the battle before it truly began. The human ships scattered. They did not retreat or form defensive positions. They exploded outward, in every direction, moving so fast they left trails of disrupted space behind them. The Kreth weapons struck empty vacuum, where targets had been a fraction of a second before. Then the humans fired back. Their weapons were different. Not the steady beams the Kreth used, but rapid pulses of blue-white energy that seemed to curve in flight tracking targets even as they tried to evade. The first volley struck 12 Kreth destroyers. Their shields flashed bright and held for almost 2 seconds, before collapsing. The second volley punched through hulls like they were paper. Lyra watched from the palace courtyard, standing beside Maya, who was speaking rapidly into her wrist communicator. The human captain's face showed no emotion as she relayed orders, coordinating the fleet above with calm precision that seemed impossible during such chaos. "How are they doing that?" Lyra asked, watching another Kreth ship explode. "Your ships move like they are alive." Maya glanced at her, still analyzing their tactics. "Give us another minute." "Another minute. What does that mean?" "It means we have been fighting the Kreth for about 4 minutes, Maya said. "We are learning how they think, how they move. Every shot they take gives us more data. Every maneuver shows us their limits. You have never fought them before." Maya shook her head. "First contact. We got your distress call, traced the Kreth fleet here, and decided to intervene. The other species warned us not to get involved, said the Kreth were unstoppable. Then, why did you come?" "Because someone needed help," Maya said simply. She looked at Lyra, her dark eyes serious. "And because humans have a thing about bullies, we really do not like them. Above them." The battle intensified. More Kreth ships were arriving through hyperspace portals, reinforcing their armada. The humans adapted immediately. Their formations shifted, and suddenly, they were no longer fighting as individual ships. They moved like a school of fish or a flock of birds, each vessel covering another's weakness, exploiting every opening. A massive Kreth battleship emerged from hyperspace. It was 3 times larger than anything else in their fleet, bristling with weapons that began charging immediately. The energy buildup was visible even from the surface, a red glow that grew brighter and brighter. Maya's expression finally changed. Her eyes widened slightly and she spoke one word into her communicator. "Vanguard." A single human ship broke from the fleet. It was larger than the others, shaped like a spearhead with engines that burned brighter than the local sun. It accelerated toward the Kreth battleship on a direct collision course. Every weapon on that massive vessel locked onto it and fired simultaneously. The human ship did not try to dodge. A shield appeared around it, glowing blue-white and crackling with energy. The Kreth weapon struck and the shield held, absorbing impacts that should have vaporized anything. The ship kept accelerating, kept closing the distance. Then it fired. Its main weapon. Lyra had to look away as a beam of pure white light connected the 2 ships. When she could see again, the Kreth battleship was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, gone. Simply erased from existence along with a perfectly straight line. Through space that glowed with residual energy, the surviving Kreth ships hesitated. That moment of uncertainty cost them. The human fleet struck again and again, each attack more coordinated than the last. They were learning, adapting, becoming more efficient with every passing second. "How is this possible?" Lyra whispered. "The Kreth have destroyed civilizations." Maya nodded. "Yeah, we read the reports. They are tough, efficient, good at what they do, but they fight like machines, following patterns, using proven tactics. They assume their enemies will break under sustained assault, and humans do not." Maya smiled. "We are really bad at following patterns, Princess. We improvise, we adapt, we do stupid things that should not work but somehow do." She gestured. "At the battle, the Kreth are fighting the same way they always fight, but we have never fought them before. So we are making up new rules as we go." A Kreth fighter broke through the defensive line and dove toward the palace. Its weapons were all ready, firing. Lyra raised her hands to cast a shield spell, but Maya simply lifted her wrist and spoke 2 words in her language. The fighter exploded in midair, taken out by a human ship. Lyra had not even seen. Zara limped over to them, her injured wing dragging slightly. She lowered her massive head to stare at Maya with one enormous silver eye. The dragon's breath smelled of smoke and ozone. Her telepathic voice touched Lyra's mind as she examined this strange creature. "This human is dangerous," she sent. The bond allowed Lyra to feel Zara's confusion and reluctant respect. "She smells of fire and metal. She has killed many things," Lyra translated for Maya. "My dragon says you are dangerous." Maya reached out and gently touched Zara's scaled snout. The dragon went very still, surprised by the boldness. "Tell her thank you. That is the nicest thing anyone has said to me all week." The battle above was turning. The Kreth were retreating, slowly pulling back toward the outer system. The human fleet pursued relentlessly, giving them no chance to regroup or counterattack. Ships that tried to stand and fight were overwhelmed in seconds. But the damage to Valoria was done. Lyra looked at her burning capital, at the thousands of dead, at the civilization that had stood for millennia now reduced to ruins. Even if the humans drove off the Kreth, her people were broken. Their cities destroyed, their infrastructure collapsed. "How do we recover from this?" she asked quietly. Maya followed her gaze. "One step at a time. First, we make sure the Kreth do not come back, then we help you rebuild. We have nothing left to pay you with." Lyra said our treasury was destroyed. Our trade goods burned. Maya looked at her with an expression Lyra could not read. "Money is not why we came. Princess, we came because you asked for help, because you needed it. That is enough. No one does that." Lyra said, "Everyone wants something. Maybe that is why your allies abandoned you." Maya suggested, "They were waiting for you to offer them something valuable, enough to risk fighting the Kreth." She turned back to watch the battle. "Humans are weird. We help people because it is the right thing to do, not because we expect payment." Lyra felt tears burning in her eyes. For 3 days she had held everything together, being strong for her people, carrying the weight of leadership after watching her parents die. But this human's simple kindness broke something inside her. The last of the Kreth ships were fleeing now, jumping into hyperspace and running. The human fleet did not pursue far. They established a defensive perimeter around Valoria and began sending down support vessels. Maya's communicator chirped, and she listened for a moment before smiling. "We captured 3 Kreth ships intact. My people are very excited. Our scientists love studying new technology." "What will you do with the ships?" "Learn from them," Maya said. "Understand how they work, then figure out how to beat them even faster next time." She looked at Lyra. "The Kreth will come back. Eventually. They do not like losing, but when they do, we will be ready, and so will you." "How can you be sure?" "Because we are going to teach you." Maya said, "Human tactics, human weapons, human stubbornness." She extended her hand. "Would you like to learn how to fight?" Like someone from Earth, Lyra looked at the offered hand. It was small, scarred, and completely steady. She thought about her destroyed world, her dead parents, her terrified people. She thought about how hopeless everything had seemed just an hour ago, and she reached out and grasped Maya's hand. "Yes," she said, "I want to learn." "Good," Maya replied, "because lesson 1 starts now. Humans do not give up ever. No matter how bad things look, no matter how impossible the odds, we keep fighting, keep adapting, keep moving forward." She squeezed Lyra's hand. "The Kreth think they broke you, but you are still standing, and as long as you are standing, you can fight back." Nova landed beside her sister, both dragons, watching this exchange with intelligent eyes. They could feel Lyra's emotions through the bond, her grief, her exhaustion, her slowly returning. Hope Maya looked up at them. "Can your dragons carry passengers?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, why? Because we need to survey the damage, figure out where to start rebuilding. And I have always wanted to ride a dragon despite everything." Lyra laughed. 2 weeks after the battle, Maya found Lyra sitting alone in what remained of the palace library. The room had been beautiful once, floor-to-ceiling shelves carved from living crystal that glowed with stored knowledge, texts written in languages older than most species could remember. Now half the ceiling was gone, exposing the building to Valoria's triple suns, and rain had damaged thousands of irreplaceable volumes. Lyra was trying to save what she could, moving books to dry areas, wrapping the most precious ones in protective cloth. Her hands were dirty and she had been crying, though she wiped her eyes quickly when Maya entered. Maya did not pretend not to notice. She simply sat down beside Lyra and started helping. Bad day, she asked. Every day is bad now, Lyra said. Her voice was flat empty. I am grateful for what you did, for what your people are doing. But sometimes I look around and wonder if there is any point. We lost so much. Maya picked up a water-damaged book, carefully opening it to see pages that had melted together. This one about Lyra took it gently. That is a history of the Third Dynasty. 2,000 years of poetry, philosophy, and scientific discovery, all in one volume. One of only 3 copies that existed. Maya watched as Lyra set it carefully aside. Can any of it be recovered? Maybe, Lyra said. Some of it, if we have time, if we have resources, if everything goes perfectly. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Nothing goes perfectly anymore. They worked in silence, for a while, moving books, categorizing damage. Every few minutes, Lyra would pause over a particularly precious text, and Maya could see the grief washing over her again. This was not just about losing things. It was about losing history, culture, identity. Finally, Maya spoke. You know, humans almost destroyed themselves. Once, Lyra looked at her. What about 300 years before we reached space? Maya said, we developed weapons that could end all life on our planet. Nuclear bombs, chemical weapons, engineered diseases. We built enough destructive power to kill everyone 100 times over. Why would you do that? Fear, hate, stupidity. Maya shrugged. Take your pick. We came very close to using them too. Several times the world was minutes away from total annihilation. What stopped you? Different things, different times. Sometimes it was luck. Sometimes it was one person making the right choice when it mattered. Sometimes we just got scared enough to step back from the edge. She picked up another book, examined it. But the point is, we survived. Not because we were stronger or smarter than our weapons, because we refused to give up. We decided our future was worth fighting for, even when everything looked hopeless. That is different, Lyra said. You were destroying yourselves. We were attacked by an outside force. Does that matter? Maya asked. Either way, your world is damaged, your people are hurting, and you have to decide what comes next. Giving up is easy, rebuilding is hard, but humans learned something important. The act of rebuilding is what makes you stronger. Lyra was quiet for a long moment, then she said, your people have been helping so much. The medical teams, the engineers, the supplies. Why do all of this for strangers? Maya considered the question. Because we remember what it was like. When humans first went into space, we were alone. Desperate. Looking for any sign we were not the only intelligent life. When we finally met other species, some of them helped us. Some of them tried to exploit us. We remember. Both. She met Lyra's eyes. We tried to be the kind of species we wish we had met back then. A sound from the doorway made them both turn. Zara had somehow squeezed her massive body through the entrance, her scales scraping against stone. She moved carefully, trying not to damage anything further until she reached Lyra. The dragon lowered her head into Lyra's lap and made a soft rumbling sound. Lyra wrapped her arms around Zara's neck, pressing her face against the warm scales. Nova is patrolling the northern border, Lyra said, translating Zara's telepathic communication. She found 3 Kreth spy drones. Your fighters destroyed them. Maya nodded and spoke into her wrist relay. 3 more drones north sector, eliminated already. She listened to the response. Good, tell Commander Hayes to increase patrols in that area. If they are scouting, they might try another attack. Do you really think they will come back? Lyra asked. Maya's expression was serious. The Kreth do not accept defeat easily. Yes, they will come. Back, maybe in a month, maybe in a year, but they will come. Which is why we need to make sure you are ready. I do not know if my people can fight another battle like that. Lyra said, we lost so many. Our armies are scattered. our defenses destroyed. Then, we rebuild them differently, Maya said, human style. She stood up and offered her hand to Lyra. Come on, I want to show you something. They flew north on Zara with Maya sitting behind Lyra, learning to work with the dragon's movements. The human showed no fear of the height or the speed. She seemed to enjoy it, leaning into the turns and laughing when Zara performed an unexpected barrel. Roll Nova joined them over the mountains, her injured wing fully healed by human medical technology. The dragons flew in formation, banking and diving in perfect synchronization. They were showing off, Lyra realized, demonstrating their abilities for this strange human who treated them with respect. Instead of fear, Maya directed them to a valley where human engineers had been working for the past week. When they landed, Lyra stared in amazement. The valley had been transformed. Defensive positions were carved into the rock faces, automated turrets that tracked movement with silent efficiency, landing pads for both ships and dragons had been constructed from materials that looked like stone but were far stronger. Shield generators hummed with power, creating overlapping fields that could stop anything short of a battleship's main weapons. But what caught Lyra's attention were the Valari warriors training in the center of the valley. They wore a mix of traditional armor and human combat gear, old magic combined with new technology. They practiced with both swords and energy weapons, flowing between fighting styles that blended centuries of martial tradition with human tactics. A human instructor was working with a group of 20, showing them how to coordinate dragonfire with artillery support. Commander Lisa Grant, Maya said as a tall blonde woman approached. She had scars on her face and moved like a predator. How is the training going? Grant saluted casually. Better than expected. Captain, these Valari are fast learners. Their magic gives them advantages. We are still figuring out how to exploit. And the dragons. She looked at Zara and Nova with open admiration. The tactical possibilities are incredible. Lyra dismounted, staring at her people. They looked different, more confident, more dangerous. The defeat that had crushed their spirits 2 weeks ago was being replaced by something harder, something determined. What did you do to them? She asked. We reminded them they are warriors. Grant said. Not victims. They lost a battle, but the war is not over. We are teaching them to fight smarter, to use every advantage they have. She gestured at a group practicing with magical shields enhanced by human energy fields. Your magic is powerful, Princess, but you were using it defensively. We are teaching offensive applications. Show me, Lyra said. Grant led them to a training area where a Valari warrior was working with a human technician. They had created a weapon that combined magical energy with human projectile technology. When fired, it launched spells at supersonic speeds. The impact on the ice target stone was devastating, leaving holes that still crackled with residual magic. Your people can throw lightning, Maya said. But you were waiting for enemies to get close. What if you could throw it farther, faster, with more precision? Another group was practicing aerial combat, dragons equipped with human targeting systems that let them coordinate attacks with fighter craft. A Valari mage riding Nova demonstrated a new technique combining dragonfire with concentrated magic, creating an explosive force 3 times more powerful than either alone. We are also working on your infrastructure. Grant continued. Human engineers and Valari builders are combining techniques. A construction crew showed them buildings being grown from living crystal, but reinforced with human materials that made them resistant to energy weapons. Traditional beauty with modern durability. Lyra watched her people training, building, growing stronger. She felt something she had not experienced since before the attack. Hope, real, tangible. Hope you are not just helping us rebuild, she said. You are making us stronger. Maya nodded. The Kreth crushed you because they were stronger, better equipped, more experienced. We cannot change what happened, but we can make sure it never happens again. When they come back, and they will, you are going to surprise them. A young Valari warrior approached nervously. He was barely past his majority, his scales still bright with youth. Princess Lyra, he said, bowing. I wanted to thank the humans. He looked at Maya, Captain Torres. Your people saved my family. My home, I will never forget that. Maya smiled. You can thank us by getting strong enough that next time you do not need saving. The warrior straightened his spine, determination flooding his features. I will train harder. I promise. After he left, Lyra turned to Maya. You are changing us. She did not sound angry, just thoughtful. In a few weeks you have altered how we think. How we fight is that bad? Maya asked no. Lyra said slowly, it is necessary. She looked at the valley, at her people, at the future being built before her eyes. We were powerful, but we were also arrogant. We thought our magic and our dragons made us invincible. The Kreth taught us otherwise. You are teaching us something better. What is that? 3 months after the first battle, the Kreth returned. Their fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Valoria system. Twice as many ships as before, including 3 of their massive battleships. They did not send communication or demands. They simply began advancing, preparing to finish what they had started. Lyra stood in the command center that humans had helped build deep beneath the palace. She was no longer wearing traditional royal robes. Instead, she wore combat armor that blended Valari craftsmanship with human engineering. Her hair was tied back and her hands rested on a tactical display that showed the approaching enemy. Maya stood beside her, along with Commander Grant and a dozen other human and Valari officers. The room hummed with controlled energy. Everyone knew this moment would come. They had prepared for it. Here we go, Maya said calmly. Status report. Commander Grant touched her display. Human fleet is in position. 40 ships arranged in defensive grid. Valari Dragon. Wings are ready. 20 flights of 3 dragons, each equipped with new targeting systems. Ground defenses at maximum readiness. Lyra added, our mages are stationed at key points. Shields are up. We have evacuated civilians to the deep shelters as practiced. Good. Maya looked at the enemy formation. They brought more ships this time. They are not underestimating us anymore. Is that good or bad? A Valari officer asked. Both, Grant said. It means they respect us now, but it also means they are committed to winning. They will hit harder faster. They will not give us time to adapt like last time. Then we do not give them time either. Lyra said. Her voice was steady, confident. 3 months of training with humans had changed her. She no longer felt like a princess, trying to protect her people. She felt like a warrior ready to fight for them. The Kreth fleet continued its advance, maintaining perfect formation. Their weapons began charging, filling space with dangerous energy. Maya watched them carefully, studying their approach. She had spent 3 months learning everything she could about Kreth tactics, interviewing survivors from other attacks, analyzing combat footage. They are going to try to overwhelm our defenses with a concentrated assault, she said. Hit one point with everything they have, breakthrough, and attack the planet directly. So we do not let them concentrate. Lyra said. We hit them first. Disrupt their formation. Force them to fight on our terms. Maya smiled. Exactly. You have been paying attention. The plan they had developed over months of preparation began to unfold. Human ships moved into position, but differently than before. They spread out, creating gaps that looked like weaknesses. The Kreth took the bait, adjusting their formation to exploit the openings. Now, Maya said quietly. Lyra spoke into the communication system that connected every defensive position. Every ship, every dragon flight leaders execute Phase 1. 20 groups of dragons launched from hidden positions in the asteroid belt. They came from above and below the plane of battle, moving in coordinated patterns that humans had taught them. Each flight had a human tactical officer aboard the lead dragon, helping coordinate attacks. The dragons were not carrying riders with swords anymore. They wore human-designed harnesses that held missiles and energy weapons. Their natural fire breath was enhanced by magical amplifiers that Valari mages had developed with human engineers. They were no longer just mounts. They were flying weapons platforms. The first wave hit the Kreth flanks before they could react. Dragon fire mixed with missiles struck shields that had been calibrated for energy weapons, not combined attacks. Zara led the northern assault, her silver scales flashing as she dove through enemy formations. Nova commanded the southern wing, her blue-tinged fire marking targets for the weapons systems. The Kreth formation wavered, trying to respond to threats from multiple directions. That is when the human fleet attacked. They did not charge forward or maintain defensive positions. They used a tactic Maya called swarming. Individual ships broke formation and attacked from different angles, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. Effectively, each ship was paired with a dragon flight coordinating attacks that kept the Kreth constantly off balance. Lyra watched the battle unfold, feeling a fierce pride. The Volari had been defeated 3 months ago, broken and desperate. Now, they fought with precision and confidence that came from excellent training and growing experience. But the Kreth were adapting. One of their battleships broke from the main formation and began targeting dragons specifically. Its weapons tracked faster than the others, and its shields seemed stronger. 2 dragon flights took hits before they could evade. 1 dragon was killed instantly, and Lyra felt the death through the collective bond all Volari shared with their dragons. "Pull back northern flights," she ordered. "They have adjusted. Get clear and regroup." Maya was already responding. "Human carrier." Lexington moved to intercept that battleship, cover the dragon withdrawal. A massive human vessel positioned itself between the Kreth battleship and the retreating dragons. Its shields absorbed hits that would have destroyed smaller ships while its weapons focused on creating a suppression field. The battleship found itself fighting alone, cut off from support. Lyra saw the opportunity. "Send in the mage strike teams," she ordered. Small human transport ships darted through the chaos. Each carried 5 Volari mages who had trained specifically for this moment. They approached the isolated battleship from different vectors, making themselves difficult targets. The Kreth tried to stop them, but the dragons and human fighters provided cover. Their coordination was perfect, born from months of practicing together. The transports reached the battleship and attached to its hull. "Breaching now," Grant reported. The mages used a combination of magic and human cutting tools to burn through the battleship armor. Once inside, they did not try to fight the crew. They simply teleported small antimatter charges into critical systems and evacuated detonation in 10 seconds. Grant counted down. Everyone held their breath. The Kreth battleship exploded from within. Massive secondary detonations tore it apart, and debris scattered across space. The explosion was so large it damaged 2 nearby Kreth destroyers. The enemy fleet hesitated. For the first time in recorded history, the Kreth showed uncertainty. They had never faced defenders who fought this way, who combined magic and technology, who refused to break under pressure press. "The advantage," Maya said. "All ships, all dragons hit them now while they are off balance." The combined Volari and human forces surged forward. Their attacks intensified, focusing on ships that were already damaged, exploiting every weakness. Lyra coordinated the magical defenses while Maya directed fleet movements and Grant managed ground-based fire support. The battle raged for 3 hours. Unlike the first fight, this one was brutal and close. The Kreth had learned from their defeat. They adapted their tactics, tried new approaches. But every time they adjusted, the defenders adjusted faster. Human flexibility combined with Volari power created something neither species could achieve alone. Slowly, the Kreth began to retreat. They fought as they pulled back, making the defenders pay for every meter of space, but they were retreating. When the last of their ships jumped into hyperspace, Lyra felt a wave of relief so intense it made her dizzy. "We won," she whispered. Maya put a hand on her shoulder. "You won. You and your people." "We just helped. Casualties," Grant reported, "are lower than projected. We lost 8 dragons, 12 human ships, and the ground defenses took minimal damage. Enemy losses are estimated at 40% of their fleet, including 2 battleships." Lyra closed, her eyes feeling the grief of every lost life through the dragon bond. 8 dragons meant 8 dead Volari as well. No bondmate could survive their dragon's death. But it could have been so much worse. The command center erupted in controlled celebration. People hugged, shook hands, compared notes on what had worked and what needed improvement. This was not wild joy. This was professional satisfaction from warriors who knew they had performed well. Maya pulled up a star chart showing the surrounding systems. "The Kreth will report this defeat." Their leadership will hear that Valoria is no longer an easy target. That might be enough to make them leave you alone. But you do not think so, Lyra said. Maya shook her head. Honestly, no, I think they will come back. Eventually, maybe with an even bigger fleet. Then we will be ready, Lyra said firmly. Each time they attack, we learn more. We get stronger. We adapt. Now you sound like a human, Maya said with a grin. Lyra smiled back. Maybe I am learning more than combat tactics. Over the next week, they assessed damage-repaired systems and debriefed every unit. Human and Valari engineers worked together, patching ships, rebuilding defenses, improving designs based on what they had learned from the battle. But something else was happening too. Other species were watching. The Thorian sent a message asking about trade agreements. The Sindari inquired about possible military cooperation. The Zephyr Empire formally apologized for abandoning Valoria and requested a diplomatic meeting. Species that had ignored Lyra's pleas for help now wanted to be friends. Lyra met with Maya in the rebuilt palace library. They sat among restored books, drinking the coffee that humans had introduced to Valoria. It was bitter and strange, but Lyra found she enjoyed it. Everyone wants to be our ally now, she said with bitter amusement. Where were they when we needed help? People are afraid. Maya said, they see that you survived 2 Kreth attacks, that you are getting stronger. They want to be on your side before you become too powerful. That is politics, not friendship. 1 year after the first attack, Valoria had transformed into something no one expected. The planet still bore scars from the war. Entire districts remained under reconstruction, and memorials to the fallen stood in every city. But between the ruins, something new was growing. A civilization that blended the ancient wisdom of the Valari with the innovative spirit of humanity. Lyra stood on a landing platform, watching construction drones work alongside mages. They were building a new type of vessel, a warship that combined living crystal technology with human weapon systems. It would be crewed by both species, each bringing their strengths to create something greater than either could build alone. Maya approached carrying 2 cups of coffee. It had become their morning ritual, meeting at dawn to discuss the day ahead and reflect on how far they had come. The prototype looks good, Maya said, handing Lyra a cup. Your engineers say it will be ready for testing next month. Lyra took the coffee, grateful for its warmth. The morning air was cold, and she had been standing here for an hour watching the sunrise over her changed world. The ship is beautiful, she said, but I worry about what it represents. We are building weapons, planning for war. Is this what we have become? Maya was quiet for a moment, then she said, humans have a saying, hope for the best but prepare for the worst. You are not building weapons because you want war. You are building them because you know war might come and you want to protect your people. That is not aggression, that is responsibility. Is there a difference? Always, Maya said. Aggression is attacking someone because you can. Responsibility is being ready to defend those who depend on you. You did not ask for this fight. The Kreth brought it to you, but we could have run, Lyra said. We could have evacuated Valoria, found a new world, started over. Instead, we chose to stand and fight, and now we are building an entire military. Because this is your home, Maya said. Your history, your culture, your identity is here. Running would have saved your lives but destroyed your spirit. She gestured at the city below. Look at what your people have accomplished in 1 year. You did not just rebuild, you evolved. 3 dragonflights passed overhead. Their formations were precise military. They carried both Valari riders and human tactical officers. A year ago, such cooperation would have been unimaginable. Now it was routine. Young Valari trained with human instructors, and human soldiers learned magic theory from Valari mages. The integration went beyond military cooperation. Human families had settled on Valoria, helping with reconstruction and bringing their own culture. Mixed species schools taught children of both races together. Cultural exchange programs sent Valari to Earth and humans to Valoria. Each species learning from the other. Lyra's communicator chimed. It was Commander Grant requesting her presence in the war room. Looks like our morning peace is over, Maya said. They walked through the palace, which had been completely rebuilt. The architecture honored traditional Valari design, but incorporated human engineering. Every room had both magical and technological systems, each complementing the other. The throne room, where Lyra's ancestors had ruled for millennia, now hosted joint strategy meetings with holographic displays and crystal scrying pools side by side. The war room was full. Valari military leaders, human officers and representatives from 6 other species who had joined what was being called the Valoria Alliance. The Thorians had been first bringing their industrial might. The Sindari contributed stealth technology. The Zephyr Empire provided diplomatic connections. Everyone stood when Lyra entered. She still was not comfortable with that level of deference, but Maya had taught her that good leaders accept respect gracefully, while never letting it inflate their ego. "Please sit," Lyra said. "What is the situation?" Grant activated. The central display showing a star system 12 jumps away. The Kreth attacked the Meridian colonies 3 hours ago. Initial reports indicate a fleet of 60 ships. They are following their standard pattern. Overwhelming force targeting civilian centers. How many colonies? 4, Grant said. Total population around 3 million. The Meridians have requested assistance. They are part of our alliance. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at Lyra. This was the moment they had been preparing for. The Valoria Alliance had been formed specifically to respond to Kreth aggression. But this would be their first test, their first time taking the fight to the enemy, instead of defending their own territory. Maya caught Lyra's eye. She said nothing, but her expression communicated clearly. "This is your decision. I will support whatever you choose." Lyra thought about the Meridians. A peaceful species known for their art and philosophy. They had approached Valoria 6 months ago, asking to join the alliance. In exchange for protection, they offered access to their medical technology, which was the most advanced in the sector. She thought about her own people. A year ago, desperate and alone, begging for help while everyone turned away. She thought about what Maya had taught her, that strength meant nothing if you only used it to protect yourself. Prepare the fleet. Lyra said, "We leave in 2 hours. Are you certain?" Grant asked. "This will commit significant resources. The Kreth might use our absence to attack. Valoria, that is why we are not taking the entire fleet," Lyra said. "We send enough ships to make a difference, but keep enough here to defend 20 human vessels, 20 Valari dragonflights, and support from our allies." She looked around the room. "This is what we built this alliance for. To ensure no one faces the Kreth alone the way we did." The room erupted in activity. Officers began coordinating with their units. Logistics specialists calculated supply needs. Communications officers contacted allied fleets. Maya pulled Lyra aside. "You know, this changes everything," she said. "Once you do this, once you take the fight to the Kreth instead of waiting for them to come to you, you become something different." "A threat," Lyra said. "A power," Maya corrected. "A real player on the galactic stage. The Kreth will see you as a major enemy. Other species will see you as either a valuable ally or a dangerous rival. Everything becomes more complicated." Lyra looked at the tactical display showing the route to Meridian. She remembered watching her world burn, feeling helpless and abandoned, begging for help that never came. "Then it becomes more complicated," she said. "But those people on Meridian deserve the help we never got. If we have the power to save them, and we do nothing, then what was the point of surviving? What was the point of becoming stronger?" Maya smiled. "That is exactly the right answer." 2 hours later, the fleet assembled in orbit. Lyra stood on the bridge of the new flagship, a vessel named Unity that represented everything the Alliance had achieved. Human crew worked alongside Valari officers. Their different approaches to problems creating solutions. Neither could reach alone. Zara and Nova were in the hangar bay leading their dragon wings. They had become legends among their kind. The dragons who fought beside humans and taught others to do the same. Young dragons competed for spots in their flights. Considering it an honor, Maya commanded the human contingent from her carrier. Vessel Grant coordinated ground forces and Valari battle mage. Kira led the magical warfare division. Each leader was the best at what they did, and together they formed something unprecedented fleet status. Lyra asked. "All ships report ready," Grant said. "We have 38 combat vessels plus support craft. Total force includes 600 dragons and 40 mage strike teams, allied contingents. The Thorians contributed 10 ships. The Sindari are sending stealth recon craft. The Zephyr Empire is providing diplomatic cover, claiming, 'This is a peacekeeping operation.'" Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility. Every person in this fleet was here because she had given the order. If they died, it would be on her conscience. But if she did, nothing, the Meridians would die anyway, and the Alliance would be revealed as meaningless. "All ships, this is Princess Lyra," she said, her voice broadcasting to every vessel. "We go to Meridian not for conquest or glory. We go because people need help, and we have the power to provide it. The Kreth believe they can attack anyone with impunity. Today we prove them wrong. Today we show the galaxy that there are species who will stand against tyranny, who will fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." She paused. "We are Valari human, Thorian, Sindari, Zephyr. We are the Alliance, and we do not abandon those who need us." The communication channels erupted with acknowledgments, battle cries in a dozen languages. Human pilots shouted encouragement. Valari dragons roared. Dragons from Zara. And Nova's wings answered, creating a chorus that seemed to shake space itself. Maya's voice came through on Lyra's private channel. "Ready, Princess." "Ready." Lyra confirmed. "Jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark." The fleet jumped into hyperspace, 40 ships and 600 dragons racing toward a battle that would define what the Valoria Alliance truly meant. When they emerged in the Meridian system, the Kreth were already bombarding the 4th colony planet. Their fleet was positioned in orbit, methodically destroying defensive positions and population centers. Black smoke rose from burning cities, and desperate evacuation ships tried to flee. The Kreth detected the Alliance fleet immediately. Their ships turned, preparing to engage this new threat. Their formation suggested they expected an easy victory. 60 ships against 40. They had numerical advantage. They did not know they were not facing regular military forces anymore. All units engaged Lyra. Ordered dragons execute pattern Delta Human Fleet implements Formation 7. Mage teams prepare for boarding actions.